It was just after 7 a.m. when Nathan Taylor first sensed that something was off. His wife, Meredith, had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered, something she almost never did. The phone buzzed. A message notification lit up briefly on the screen before it faded to black again. Normally, Nathan wouldn't have given it a second thought. But this time, a name flashed across the screen that stopped him cold. David Work, followed by what looked like the start of a very intimate message. Nathan froze, his coffee cup hovering halfway to his mouth. He had never heard Meredith mention anyone named David at her marketing firm. Suspicious, he slowly set the cup down. The soft clink of ceramic on granite sounded louder than it should have. For a few long seconds, he just stared at the now dark screen. A storm was brewing inside him. They had been married for years. Trust and respect for each other's privacy had always been the foundation of their relationship. Just the idea of reading her messages felt like a betrayal in itself. But the thought had already taken root, and it was spreading fast, clouding everything. Upstairs, the sound of the shower ran steady in the background, blending with his racing thoughts. Before he could talk himself out of it, Nathan reached for the phone. To his surprise, it wasn't locked, another unusual detail. Meredith was usually extremely careful with her digital privacy, a habit from her years working with sensitive client information. At the top of her message list was the thread with David Work. Nathan's thumb hovered for a second. Then he tapped it open. What he read made his heart pound. The conversation was unmistakably intimate, filled with inside jokes, emotional confessions, and subtle plans to meet later that week. Plans timed precisely for when Nathan would be away at a conference. "I miss you," David had written. "These stolen moments aren't enough anymore." Nathan scrolled further. Each message confirmed what he now feared. Meredith was having an affair. References to past meetups, shared experiences, and upcoming plans painted a clear timeline. This had been going on for at least 3 months. Still staring in disbelief at the screen, Nathan barely noticed the water stop upstairs. In a hurry, he set the phone back exactly where he found it and picked up his coffee. It had gone cold. He tried to process what he had just discovered. Part of him wanted to confront her right away. Another part told him to stay calm, gather more proof, and act when he had a clear plan. Minutes later, Meredith walked into the kitchen. Her hair was damp from the shower, and she was dressed in her usual work clothes, a pencil skirt and silk blouse. She smiled at him, the same warm smile she'd given him 1,000 times before. Nathan felt a wave of nausea. "You're quiet this morning," she said, pouring herself some coffee. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," he replied quickly. "Just thinking about the Donovan project." A lie. He blamed work. "The deadline's coming up." "You'll manage," she said confidently, checking her watch. "You always do." She reached for her phone, not noticing how intently Nathan was watching her every move. "I might be home late tonight," she said casually. "We've got a last-minute pitch for a new client, and the team wants to prep thoroughly." Another lie, Nathan thought bitterly. The way she said it so effortlessly, like it was just another normal day, made his stomach turn. "No problem," he answered, trying to keep his voice steady. "Good luck with the pitch." She gave him a kiss on the cheek, a routine gesture between longtime partners, then grabbed her bag and headed for the door. "Love you," she called over her shoulder. "Love you too," he replied automatically. But the words left a bitter taste in his mouth. As the door closed behind her, Nathan sat alone in the deafening silence of their kitchen. The foundation of his marriage felt like it had just collapsed beneath him. He called in sick, unable to face his coworkers while his personal life was falling apart. He spent the day in a daze, caught between disbelief and a growing sense of betrayal. By evening, Nathan had made a decision. He wouldn't confront Meredith, not yet. Instead, he would watch, observe, and gather more information. Only then would he decide what to do. The logical part of his brain told him this was the smart move. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was stalling, because he wasn't ready to face the end of his marriage. At 6 p.m., Meredith texted him, just as he expected. She said she'd be home late. Nathan replied with a simple, "No problem." The ease with which Nathan replied to her text mirrored the casual way she had been lying to him. He ordered takeaway, but couldn't taste a single bite. He drank 2 beers, but felt nothing. His mind was elsewhere, consumed by what he had uncovered, and how he was supposed to deal with the days ahead. Meredith finally came home around 9 p.m. Nathan sat in the living room, pretending to watch a documentary about deep-sea exploration. She looked tired, but her cheeks had a certain flush to them. Nathan wondered if it was from the crisp autumn air or from something else entirely. "How was your day?" she asked, dropping her bag by the door. "Uneventful," he replied. The half-truth felt like a rock in his throat. "Yours?" She let out a long sigh and collapsed onto the couch beside him. "Exhausting, but I think we nailed the pitch. We should hear back by the end of the week." Nathan nodded, studying her face for any trace of guilt. If he hadn't read the messages, would he even have noticed? She looked exactly like the Meredith he knew, smart, driven, and caring. But underneath that familiar appearance was someone who had mastered the art of deception. "I'm going to take a shower," she announced, standing up. "Feels like I've had 12 hours of straight talking." As she climbed the stairs and disappeared from view, Nathan didn't move. The glowing images of strange sea creatures flickered on the forgotten screen. He thought about going after her, demanding answers, forcing a confrontation. But the weight of the day's discovery had drained him. Tomorrow, he told himself. Tomorrow, he'd decide what to do next. That night, he lay beside her in bed, listening to her slow, even breathing. He wondered how she could sleep so peacefully while their marriage was sinking like a ship in quicksand. Every time she stirred in her sleep or reached for him out of habit, he felt a mix of love and betrayal. He would gently pull away, unable to bring himself to touch her. The next few days followed a routine that had quietly changed for Nathan. He acted normal on the outside, but on the inside, he was watching. Every move Meredith made, he analyzed. He checked her phone when he could. He kept track of messages from David and occasional calls that never appeared in her call log. He found receipts for lunches at restaurants they'd never been to together, tucked into pockets of laundry-bound clothes. He even drove past her office one afternoon and spotted her getting into a silver BMW with a man. The man matched David's LinkedIn photo almost perfectly, tall, well-dressed, with dark hair and silver at the temples. A week later, things escalated. Meredith sent Nathan a reminder about his upcoming business trip to Chicago. "Don't forget the blue tie I gave you for Christmas," she texted. "It brings out your eyes." That attention to detail felt like a cruel joke. Nathan knew from her texts with David that they'd already arranged to meet at a downtown hotel while he was supposed to be away. He imagined them together in a luxury suite, laughing at how easily she had fooled him. The thought made his blood boil. That night, as Meredith lay sleeping next to him, Nathan made up his mind. He wouldn't go to Chicago. Instead, he would follow her. He would find out exactly what she and David were planning, and he would catch them in the act. The idea made him sick, but he needed undeniable proof. He had to see it for himself. Only then could he accept what his heart still refused to believe. The morning of his supposed departure, Nathan packed his suitcase as usual. Meredith kissed him goodbye without a second thought. He played along perfectly. Instead of heading to the airport, he parked at a small coffee shop a few blocks away. From there, he watched the minutes tick by. According to the conference schedule, his flight was boarding. He texted Meredith. "At the gate, boarding now. I'll let you know when I land." Her reply came quickly. "Have a great trip. I love you." The words stung. So casual, so hollow, like salt in an open wound. The hours dragged on as Nathan waited, moving between the cafe and a nearby park, careful not to draw attention. Then, around 5 p.m., she texted again. "Hope you landed safely. I'm heading home. Early night for me." Another lie. Nathan had been watching the building where she worked. She had left nearly an hour earlier, dressed more carefully than usual, and wearing the perfume he'd given her for their anniversary. He followed her from a distance. But she didn't drive home. She went to the Grand. Nathan followed Meredith to the Meridian Hotel downtown. He watched from his car as she parked, stepped out, and disappeared into the building, her steps lighter than they'd been in months. Parked across from the entrance, Nathan prepared himself for what was coming. He already knew the room number, 1507. He had found a confirmation email on Meredith's laptop days earlier. But the question still hung in the air. Could he actually go through with it? Could he walk up to that door, knock, and face what was happening behind it? He sat in his car for nearly an hour, frozen, playing out one scenario after another. In one, Meredith broke down in tears and begged for forgiveness. In another, she stayed calm and claimed that David understood her in a way Nathan never could. In the last, Nathan didn't say a word. He just turned and walked away, leaving her with the consequences of her betrayal. Eventually, he stepped out of the car. The cool evening air did little to settle his pounding heart. The hotel lobby was quiet and upscale, its staff trained to respect privacy. Nathan didn't stop at the front desk. He went straight for the elevators. In the reflection of the polished doors, he barely recognized himself. Pale, tight-lipped, and grim. But he moved with purpose. The elevator took him to the 15th floor. His footsteps were muted on the soft carpet as he walked toward the last room in the hallway, 1507. The Do Not Disturb sign hung on the doorknob. Nathan stood there, hand raised to knock. Doubt hit him hard. Did he really want this confrontation? Did he really need to see it with his own eyes to believe what he already knew? Before he could decide, the door opened. David stood in front of him, wearing only boxer shorts and an undershirt, clearly on his way to grab ice. They stared at each other in stunned silence. "Can I help you?" David asked coolly, as if a stranger had mistakenly wandered up to the wrong room, not the husband of the woman he was sleeping with. "You're David," Nathan said, his voice low but firm, locking eyes with him. The recognition hit David's face like a flash of lightning, followed by the slow onset of panic. "Nathan," he said, trying to stay calm. This isn't what you think." A bitter laugh escaped Nathan's lips. "It's exactly what I think," he said, and pushed past him into the room. Meredith was right where he knew she'd be, leaning against the pillows of the king-sized bed, wearing a silk robe he'd never seen before. Her expression shifted instantly, from expectation to sheer horror. "Nathan," she gasped, pulling the robe tightly around her. "What are you doing here? How did you?" He cut her off. His voice was eerily quiet, despite the storm inside him. "It wasn't hard. You weren't exactly subtle." David stepped inside and gently closed the door behind him. "Look, man, maybe we should talk about this calmly," he began. Nathan turned to him with a cold stare. "I'm not here to talk to you," he said flatly. "But I am curious. Does your wife know you're here? Or does she think you're working late, just like mine?" David turned pale, but said nothing. Nathan turned back to Meredith. She had gotten out of bed now, standing stiff, her face a mask of guilt and regret. 3 months, Nathan said quietly. "This wasn't some one-time mistake. While I was planning our anniversary trip, while we were talking about starting a family, you were with him." "It's not that simple," Meredith pleaded, stepping toward him. "Please, just let me explain." "Explain what?" Nathan's voice started to shake. "How you lied to me every single day? Came home from him, slept next to me like nothing was wrong, made me believe our marriage was solid, while you were slowly tearing it apart." Tears ran down Meredith's face, but Nathan didn't feel anything anymore. The woman in front of him looked like his wife, but she wasn't. She was a stranger wearing her face. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. "And yet, here we are," Nathan replied, motioning to the room. The rumpled bed, the wine glasses on the nightstand, David's shirt tossed over a chair, Meredith's clothes neatly folded on the dresser. It wasn't just sex. It was intimacy, a hidden, parallel relationship. "I'm going home to pack my things," he said, the decision now crystal clear. "I'll be gone by tomorrow morning. You can go back to our house, or not. I really don't care anymore." He turned to leave, but Meredith rushed forward, grabbing his arm. "Nathan, wait. Please don't do this to us. We can get through this. People make mistakes. They can heal, rebuild." Nathan looked down at her hand, then into her tearful eyes. "That's just it, Meredith," he said quietly. "This wasn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, saying something hurtful in the heat of an argument. What you did was a choice. 8,000 choices. Every single day. For months. You chose him," Nathan said quietly, nodding toward David, who at least had the decency to look away, ashamed. "You chose him over us. Over our marriage. over everything we built together. It wasn't like that, Meredith insisted, her voice trembling. I love you. I do. I lost myself somewhere along the way. And now I'm trying to find my way back. Nathan gently removed her hand from his arm. Goodbye, Meredith. He walked out of the room without looking back. The door closed behind him with a soft click, final and absolute. In the elevator, he leaned against the wall, completely drained. The confrontation hadn't gone at all like the scenes he had played out in his head, but the outcome was exactly the same. In the days that followed, Nathan moved into a furnished apartment downtown. He filed for divorce and began the long, painful process of accepting his new reality. Meredith didn't stop calling. She sent countless texts, some full of tearful apologies, others laced with anger and blame. She accused Nathan of overreacting, said affairs happened in many marriages, and even suggested couples therapy. When he stopped responding, she showed up at his workplace, creating a scene that embarrassed him and unsettled his coworkers. To Nathan's surprise, David also reached out. I never wanted this to happen, he wrote in an email Nathan read with detached curiosity. Meredith and I got close while working on a difficult project. Things just developed. I'm ending it. I know now it was a mistake. Nathan deleted the email without replying. David's regret meant nothing to him. Neither did anything between David and Meredith anymore. The only thing that mattered now was Nathan himself, rebuilding his life from the ground up, rediscovering who he was outside the marriage he had once believed would last forever. About a month after the hotel confrontation, Nathan ran into Claire, an old friend from college, at a local bookstore. Over coffee, he learned that she, too, had gone through a divorce nearly 2 years earlier. The first few months are the hardest, she told him gently. Her eyes carried the kind of understanding that only experience can bring. You keep waiting to wake up from the nightmare. Then, one day, you realize this is your new life. And somehow, you find your way. She was right. Day by day, the sharp pain of betrayal dulled into something more manageable. First a constant ache, then just an occasional sting. Nathan began to enjoy things again. Old hobbies he had long neglected, reconnecting with friends, exploring parts of himself that had disappeared during married life. The divorce process itself was messy and drawn out. Meredith fought him on every detail, as if winning the legal battle could somehow undo the failure of the relationship. But eventually, they agreed. On the day the divorce was finalized, Nathan stood outside the courthouse and felt lighter than he had in months. It was a crisp, clear autumn afternoon, much like the day he had discovered Meredith's affair. The world around him had changed, and so had he. Life had moved on, and now, so would he. As people bustled past, chasing after their daily routines, Nathan stood still, tired, but free. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A message from Claire. Dinner tonight to celebrate? Smiling face with smiling eyes. Nathan smiled and typed back a quick reply. He was free now, free from the lies, from the betrayal, and finally, free to start over. As he walked away from the courthouse, he didn't look back. The past was behind him for good, and whatever came next, he would face it with open eyes and an open heart, wiser for what he had endured. 6 months later, Nathan sat across from Claire at her favorite restaurant, quietly amazed at how much had changed. They had been together for 4 months now. They were taking things slow, building a relationship based on honesty, something Nathan now cherished above all else. Meredith's betrayal still flickered in his memory now and then, rising in moments of doubt. But each time, the feeling faded quickly. It no longer had power over him. Through mutual friends, he had heard that Meredith and David had tried to make their relationship work after the divorce. But it hadn't lasted. Meredith had left for a new beginning in another state. David, apparently, had reconciled with his wife. Nathan didn't wish Meredith or David well, but he didn't wish them harm either. They were simply part of a chapter in his life that had now come to a close. Just then, Claire laughed at something he said, her eyes crinkling at the corners in that familiar way. And in that moment, Nathan felt something unexpected, deep, quiet gratitude. The road that had led him here had been painful beyond words. But sitting across from Claire now, he realized he wouldn't change a thing. Sometimes, he thought, life had to completely fall apart to show you what was really meant for you all along. What are you thinking about? Claire asked, noticing the faraway look on his face. Just how unpredictable life can be, Nathan said honestly, and how something that feels like the end can actually be the beginning. She reached across the table and took his hand, no words needed. That was one of the things he loved most about her, the way she gave him space to process, without demanding explanations. She just understood. As they left the restaurant, walking hand in hand into the cool night air, Nathan looked up at the stars. The sky stretched out endlessly above them, vast, mysterious, and beautiful, just like the human heart. And tonight, under those stars, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Whatever came next, he was ready. The betrayal that once defined him was now just a part of his story, a painful chapter, but not the whole book. The pages ahead were still unwritten, full of possibility, waiting to be filled with new adventures, new challenges, and maybe, most surprisingly, a new kind of love. Nathan gave Claire's hand a gentle squeeze as they walked, quietly thankful for second chances and the unexpected gifts that sometimes rise from the ashes of broken dreams.